2 million Aussies to score a wage rise, but will it increase unemployment? Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at the discussions about raising the minimum wage. Now, often I've highlighted the fact that the RBA has just failed again and again and again to predict any wage increases. We've looked at housing affordability. I will bring up, didn't plan to, but I will bring up this chart just showing you the difference in property price growth compared to residential growth. What do you think's grown more? What do you think's grown more? You know, I'll give you a guess. Houses are up 565% in Sydney from 1990 to 2020, and we'll just bring up wages. And I know the regular viewers will know, you'll know what it is, but we'll let the other people have a guess to what they think it could be. We have it here, 300%. So the only portion that's close, the only property price growth that's close to this 300% are units in Brisbane, and that's because arguably we have a huge oversupply of units in South Brisbane here. We'll see how that goes. So, you know, calls for a minimum wage rise. Everyone is happy because it'll flow through to other parts of the economy. But we need to talk about the implications this has. It's not all good news, okay? Because, well, when you have a minimum wage, you're setting an artificial level. So an artificial level. This is a supply-demand curve for labor, okay? And this is the demand curve here, the demand line, and this is the supply line. Now, in a normal situation, there will be an equilibrium point where labor and supply will reach an equilibrium point where the price is equal to the quantity. So there's no shortage of labor. People are not having trouble to get laborers, and there's no oversupply or unemployed people just struggling to get jobs because there's not enough people employing. Now, what happens is when you intervene in the market and set a minimum price level, so here you say, okay, the price isn't going to, we don't agree with where the market's setting. We're going to come in and say that the minimum price, minimum wage has to be at this level because we feel that that's fair. Everyone needs to get a fair pay, Florian. You know, everyone has to get that. You can't expect someone to work for nothing. You can't, you know, businesses just won't pay anyone anything then because apparently people work for nothing. just have a look at all the labor shortage issues over in the States and even in some industries here in Australia, and then you'll see why UBI will never work. UBI will only work if you have forced labor for a large portion of the population. So, anyway, back to this. The government's come in and people have lobbied and they've set a minimum wage here. So the minimum wage is now right up at this level. Okay, it's not here at this equilibrium level, it's at this level here. Now what happens is, if the wage is at this level, up here, so say you're earning, we'll just say for argument's sake, $100 an hour instead of $20 an hour, then all of a sudden the supply of labor is over here. So it moves from this point, goes boom, 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 boom. All these people are going, wow, well, I'm gonna definitely make myself available to work for that money. I will enter the economy for that. It's at a higher level. And it may not be $100, it may just be $20, guys. It may be $15. It doesn't matter wherever you're at. So the supply is up here. But something happens to the demand. The demand starts going backwards. It goes from this level, QE, it goes boom, 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 down because there are all these businesses that are going, well, I can't afford to hire that person for that level. I'm going to have to cut back hours. I can't put on that extra staff person I want. Or if you're a small business person, you're going to go, honey, we're just going to have to work harder ourselves and put off hiring that other person. We can't do it. We're just not going to, we can't afford to hire that person to work on the weekend to take a day off. We're just going to have to go in and work. So that means the demand for labor decreases. So because you've got this situation here, there's only going to be this many businesses that are, well, jobs available. But remember, now the supply is all the way up here. It's at this level. So there's a big gap between the demand and the supply. So you have this surplus, this level of people who've entered the workforce, who are now participating in the workforce, who maybe for other reasons were not, before. Maybe they weren't participating. So then unemployment will go up because you've now got this larger supply. Let's just say in this particular sector. But you've got to remember, it's gotten worse. It's gotten worse because this, I can't draw straight with the mouse, this is where it is, where it used to be. So now that is the excess. So in an equilibrium, you would have had QE as your, labor force. Let's say it's 100. And now demand is at 110. But supply is at 110, but demand for jobs is at 90. So now you've got 20 difference overall. So this here, see, this is the deadweight loss. This is the potential of people that could be employed, could be working if you let the market manage the minimum wage. But instead, because you decided to step in and manipulate the market, you're creating this deadweight loss. So I'd argue, I would advocate you've got a duty of care to take care of these people if you've taken advantage of this situation at all. So we could have this instance where the government is stepping in to be the hero, to create employment, or to create a minimum wage and creates unemployment and not even realize it. Or most people won't. So let's have a look at how Frydenberg is framing this, everyone. So Frydenberg's sign, 2 million could score a wage rise, and people will be happy about this. Now, don't get me wrong, I want people to get a wage rise, but I don't want it to come from the state. I don't want it to come from the government. I want people to get a wage rise the normal way you should. Performance, skill, and capability. If you improve your capabilities, you can demand a higher wage where you're working. If they're not going to give it to you, you go somewhere else to get a better job. That's essentially what it is. You should be getting a wage rise because your boss comes up to you and says, we've seen how you worked, we're happy with your performance, here's a bonus, here's additional pay. Or here's additional responsibility, we'll pay you more. That's what you want to see in an economy. You don't want the government coming and dictating to you, okay, you need to pay people more. But Florian, I hear everyone saying, businesses aren't like that. Well, then you change. You find a business that will appreciate you. The crappy businesses, word gets around. I'm on a Facebook group for chefs. And it's interesting seeing them just share stories about potential employers who are good and who are bad, who have dodged on their super, who they're not. Word gets around, everyone. So, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg has told the wages umpire, I mean, this is the thing. We're not in a free market, everyone. Don't kid yourself. All the lefties who are complaining, capitalism, it's what's destroying Australia. And we're not really. We're in a quasi-capitalistic economy, which is heavily regulated and influenced by the state and by a variety of special interest groups that come and intervene in the market and which has unintended consequences, which we just sweep under the rug because most people, they pretend it's not important or they're not aware. So, the wages umpire that the scale of improvement in the economy should be considered when it decides this year's minimum wage. I mean, your wage should increase if your productivity increases. Why should you get a wage increase if your productivity doesn't? But the problem is, you've also got a government that can devalue your savings in an instant. So really, one would hope, that may lead towards the argument of sound money. Perhaps that's the mass consumer adoption for crypto. The prospect of a sound money that can't be debased as easily as fiat. Well, I know you can create altcoins, but I'm talking here just about Bitcoin itself. Frydenberg and Industrial Relations Minister Michaela Cash made the submission to the Fair Work Commission following the Tuesday federal budget. The minister said the economic growth and strengthening labour market is something that should be considered when it comes time for the Commission to decide how much of a pay rise Australia's 2.2 million award-reliant workers will receive this year. I mean, there you go. Just think about that. You've got 2.2 million workers in this country whose wages are dictated by the state. Does that sound like a free market to you, everyone? Seriously, come on. And it's been a long time since I've had a job like that. I'm at the different approach to it. I've been a small business person for as long as I can remember now. I just get frustrated when all our staff had to go up in wages, because even if the award goes up but you're paying them above, you're expected to bump them up relative to it. And it's frustrating. I'm going, why are you getting more money? You're not doing anything else. And they just laugh at me. They knew how to piss me off. I think they enjoyed it. The Commission will decide on the new rate in June. Traditionally, the Treasurer won't give explicit insight into where it believes the new minimum wage should be. Cash and Freinberg noted that GDP growth is forecast to hit 1.25% this year, 4.25% in 2022 and 2.5% in 2023, as the recovery gathers pace. Given the scale of improvements in economic conditions, this update is of particular significance for the panel, the minister wrote. It comes after the government warned against increasing the minimum wage in April in a submission to the Commission. At the time, the Morrison government said there needed to be a cautious approach to the minimum wage, given the uncertainties in the domestic and international economic outlook. Unions and employers are split on the minimum wage. Well, of course, one group are used to actually creating jobs, and the other ones are used to creating cartels of labor force and using threats and political power to get the most for the members in their cartel, where the broader economy pays the price for that. Just look at why we don't have certain industries in this country, or why there's an incentive to offshore work. The Australian Council of Trade Unions is pushing for a 3.5% increase to the minimum wage, which would take it from $19.84 an hour to $20.53 an hour. That would take the minimum wage from $753 a week to $780 a week. As it stands, the minimum wage is around 52.7% of the national median wage. The projections in the 2021 budget make it clear that without a real increase in the minimum wage this year, working people will suffer a cut in their spending power and their living standards, ACTU Secretary Sally McManus said in a letter to the government. However, the Australian Chamber of Commerce and AI Group are calling for a smaller 1.1% increase. That would mean any wage rise would be capped at $1.18 a day. It is critical that the Fair Work Commission takes a very cautious approach in determining the level of any minimum wage increase this year, AI Group Chief Executive Ines Willox said. While Australia's economy has bounced back at a faster and stronger pace than had been anticipated, reflecting the size, speed and success of various economic support measures, the effects of the pandemic and recession are ongoing. The Chamber of Commerce has also said Fair Work Commission should stagger the timing of the pay rise. I mean, you've got a whole lot of businesses here that are just struggling to keep going, and this is just going to be another cost. And they're either going to pass it on to consumers, so we all have to pay for it anyway, or they're going to reduce the hours that people work. That's what it is. So what's the suggestion here? What's the solution? I mean, everyone wants their minimum wage. I mean, you could argue if you're only earning a minimum wage, upskill to get out of that minimum wage job. And some people will flamboyant, go, oh, no, I can never do that. And I get maybe if you don't have the skill or the intellectual capacity, I can appreciate that. Or you just don't want to. Then should you get a wage rise? But then also we've got inflation that the government's just debasing the value of our currency. So it's two sides of the same coin. I would advocate we experiment with some special economic regions where we look at drastically cutting the minimum wage, but in turn we also cut the taxation and other burdens on people living in those areas. And then we see what the benefit is. Bit of experimentation. At least that's one of the advantages of America. They can have a more granular, they can test different ideas around their country. We don't really have that flexibility here. It would be good to see. What do you think, everyone? Oh, and before people in the comments going, oh, you're a rich architect, you never worked on the minimum wage. I'm a small business owner, guys. Okay? Everyone gets paid before the small business owner. A lot of people have got no idea what's that like. Oh, and it's a lot of fun sometimes. There's a reason why I went grey at a very young age. And I'm not shaving my head just to look cool. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this one in the comments down below. If you're a fan of the channel and enjoy the content I create here, there are a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us by signing up for SelfWealth or Stake, using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I will see you in the next episode. Bye for now.